Good crypto morning to you, JP. How's your morning treating you?
Good crypto morning, Brandy. I'm doing great. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing wonderful. You know what I love about morning dessert, coffee, food? You can have it any time of day, kind of like this show.
Absolutely. Coffee is great in the evening and the morning. My friends who say don't drink coffee in the evening are missing out.
You know, folks with ADD, they probably understand this one. You can drink coffee any time of the day. It doesn't affect your ability to
sleep. Just drink it for the taste. Well, we have a full lineup today.
We do. You know, I would love to kick this off. I have a bit of slide deck, but you have some really cool topic points that you mentioned to me. I would love for you to just go ahead and jumpstart this with a screen share. Let's showcase the audience what's happening. This last week has been intense.
Absolutely, it has.
Cool place. Where are you at today?
We are at the Forest office. So recently I took my daughter to the Trans-Wisconsin Trail. It's this unofficial pathway through rustic roads of southern. It spans the whole length of Wisconsin, and it's about the happiest I've been all year. Good quality time with my little girl and having camping, and we keep talking about it. We just can't stop talking about the fun that we had.
Oh, I love that. You know, my family gets kicked at it when we go camping, and I come along. Every time I come along and camp, I'm always bringing things like Starlink satellite because I want to be connected. And this is my number one thing is like, how do I properly have a digital detox? I always advocate to have a digital detox, yet I always want to be connected. It's an odd balance.
Yeah,
so glad
I left my laptop at home.
Smart.
So I believe this is the expansive and extractive networks we teased last week, right?
Oh, this was. And one thing that I loved about this, if you want to zoom in on this one, so it's so interesting to me, and thank you for sharing. And I started going through various articles. There's so much information there, very opinionated. And what's clear is like we have this new generation of community that has formed in crypto space. It's global. It's focused on innovation and changing everything to digital. I find it interesting when we think about what it means to empower democratic autonomy and cybernetic planning. That last sentence there really intrigues my mind in regards to where we're going. I've been in crypto for a while, and so it's interesting to go through the ebbs and flows of both bear markets and bull markets, but the mindset of the community participants, the ones that have been there in the trenches and still there, like us, we are definitely leaning toward empowering democratic autonomy. What's your thoughts?
Right. There's been some contention in who's going to own the internet. We see Web2 players that continue to want to and expand and use AI to expand their ownership of the internet. And then we have cryptographers, people who are entrenched in Web3 are saying, no, users have equity ownership in the internet. We're no longer going to create these behemoths that are going to own all the data and all the capital. This is a collective. The collective has created this. We are running on public protocols a lot of these protocols that we use were created by DARPA, a government agency. This actually belongs to the people. Yes, companies did create a lot of applications on top. This is also becoming democratized, where almost anyone with just a little bit of coding knowledge, and often if you're willing to pay some subscription fees, then no coding knowledge, can build an application and can start to create a community. That's not to say that it's easy or that it's going to be an immediate contender, but the world is opening up and it's becoming more accessible to more people now to create new technologies.
Yeah, but there's still room for improvement. The culture that's forming and building right now. I mean, we're seeing it. It's definitely a left-wing, right-wing type of situation. You have the Bitcoin maximalist versus the Web3 crowd. You know, I'm a hybrid. I see value in all of it. It's not one way or the other. So I love having that balance there. But when I think about the future of this, what it means, like if we fast forward 20 years from now, one of the risks that I've seen 20 years from now is that a lot of the stuff that we're embracing in the global crypto community is largely being formed a shelter from government regulations and, you know, the regulators that are leading this. United States, I have some faith in, but what about the other countries? What about China? Is it really going to be a fair game? How out of control will the world be 20 years from now? And is the community that forms today, that's creating cultures in this global world, are we all really prepared for it?
Are we prepared? Not a chance, right? Not a chance. Is you talking large scale public? I can imagine what the next 20 years will hold. Talking 2052.
Yeah.
Technology is beginning to move at such a rapid pace. I recall being at a conference in 2016. It was said that the next 20 years in technological advancement will be equivalent to the last 100 years. Here we are 7 years into that prediction. It does feel like that statement is holding water.
Right, I agree. It's a little far-fetched to think so far out, but I do love thinking long-term because it's there. We know that the technology is shaping the way that we look at global services, global utility power. I believe that it's going to lead towards a better utopia of a sense. I don't ever think that we're going to be fully utopia, but if you look back at human history, this is the best time ever in human history to live. And we now have true democracy that's been tested, and the public globally has access to understand the power of democracy. And now we have a whole new wave of cultures and communities coming together that are native to this digital world. By the time we get towards the end of the show, I would love to at least conclude on the topic point of like what that generational wealth means and how it affects the future. I'm super excited about that, but we need to make sure that we advocate and educate the next generation that are native to this digital world, like your daughter, right? Like my son. And we got to make sure that I already know they embrace it, but the mindset that I'm seeing still is like get rich quick versus let's build real utility power. That's the mindset I'm seeing.
Well, the nice thing about the bear market, from my perspective, is that there's not as many of the get rich quick personalities around. It's much more builder oriented. They'll be back. We will have another bull cycle, and they will be back. But for the time being, it's easier to find people who are in Web3 for the expansive, to create expansive networks, rather than looking to just solely extract the value out of it. So the point you brought up about generational wealth is interesting. We're going to get into that for sure.
Okay, cool. Let's go to the next slide, see what else we got here. Continuing on, what's your thoughts about this when it comes down to ideology? What do you think about, like we were thinking fast forward, and that's what this is alluding to, is like centuries of arguments of decentralized systems, and they have been around. Like I've got accustomed to decentralized technologies early on in the early days of Linux, Novell, and then Windows NT. Enterprise environments were adopting technology rapidly during the .com era. It was really powerful, network topology and scaling of these systems. It required decentralized technology. It just wouldn't work. We would not have the rapid adoption of enterprise IT if it wasn't for decentralized technology. I don't think folks really understand the power of decentralized and how well it affects things like enterprise services, corporate infrastructure. And that's what I see here. And that's what I think of when I think of like 20 years ahead. It's more of that, having our next generation be properly prepared for it, to have that education, have the tooling. That's how we're going to make meaningful changes, because they can have this Swiss Army knife, this toolbox of, all sorts of creativeness that's going to allow new digital innovation to occur. I just want to make sure they're prepared for it.
Absolutely. Education is a key component. It's area of focus. That's my area of focus, as it turns out. And I know that you've done a lot of education as well. So it's like a very happy place that we're in with education and the need for education. This comment specifically is in a larger context, is a critique or a criticism of the Web3 mythology, like the mythology that's around Bitcoin and Satoshi Nakamoto. What the authors here are saying is that we have created this mythos that decentralization is the way, in other words, that it's almost inevitable. I don't necessarily think decentralization is inevitable, but we do have strong historical context of decentralization and decentralized systems. Some were federated. We have experiments with federated. We have, in the last century, had several experiments with top-down organizational structures. I don't know the author's political persuasions, but perhaps they are more for a top-down system. But we see this time and again, top-down systems become top-heavy. They do not work. Whether that is in the form of, if we're talking about ideology, pure communism doesn't work in practice. Even democracy has worked for a long time, but we're starting to see our institutions corrode. We're starting to see the corrupt individuals have found a way into the government, and this creates corruption in the system. The heavier the top is, the less stable. You look at countries that are the happiest and treat their populace well, they are more akin to bottom-up dictatorships, where you have community bodies that say where the money goes and what will happen with the money. And any kind of a high-level government is purely there to collect taxes and then disperse them. And that's their primary function.
Yeah, I'm a little contrarian. I'm like, we need a hybrid world. We need to educate and empower. And to do that requires adoption, both sides of the aisle. I do really believe that. And I look at that, and that's why I value democracy. That's why I value the political system, which is a mess in the United States. But just the idea that uniting together is going to allow us to make more meaningful change for the future, more meaningful progress that we're all going to be proud of than if we kept a hard division in the middle. And so I still believe that in the sense of just general global communities. We have it here too. It's a little unfair to say that the crypto global community is one way or another at this point in time, because it's still forming. What we see is diversity, and there's still unfairness from the traditional system, like the way that we look at wages and compensation, the way that we structure opportunity in this world where we have geopolitical risks, where policies are preventing us from actually working together. And I think those are the real risks that are ahead of us, is that this idea that we're deglobalizing when the crypto marketplace wants to remain globalized. And I think this is going to be the hardest part for us in the near term. That's why folks are so optimistic when they start seeing price action move up. And I'm more optimistic about seeing those underpinnings develop, because I know price action is to follow. It only makes sense. You can increase value by real meaningful growth cycles that provide support for the adoption curve, rapid adoption curve like that we've seen of refrigeration and the automobile from horse and carriage. We're in that now with artificial intelligence, blockchain technologies. These things are just going to continue to evolve. The players that are in it, we need strong players that are dedicated and want to support making changes that will influence the next generation of digital communities. I mean, our children now that are native to this internet digital age,
right,
their mindset's going to be vastly different than those that are 20 years from now. Yes. That culture, and they're going to be born into it. They're going to be born into a transaction world of trustless environments that allow you to arbitrage or be able to rapidly sell and trade assets like your house and vehicles, whatever. That's all going to end up getting automated and simplified. That whole mindset is going to be super interesting to witness. I'm excited and a little part scared. Because I want to make sure we do it right.
Yeah, if you're talking about automating house sales, if we can get rid of title insurance, I'll be super happy. I'm game. Let's do it.
There's a big problem. I recently got a letter and it blows me away. Where's my letter? I'm like, I received this from I don't know. Well, it has sensitive information on it. American Modern. It was just an insurer for some rentals that I have in California. But because of the fire risk, all of a sudden they're dropping my policy and like, good luck. That's what they told me. So today I'm like, I have to go find insurance. I'm scared. I'm like, well, if they're exiting California, which I think is all over the news, I literally got dropped. I'm like, what are the options? And how do I control this? And how's that going to affect rent? I'm a landlord. How's that going to affect rent? I'm like, that's kind of crazy. And then when I think of the empowerment of this new digital future of ours, I'm so looking forward. Do you know how much stress I have when it comes down to Bitcoin? The only stress I have is if I need to sell it right now. That's the only stress I have, because I know I'm going to lose out when I sell it. I don't want to sell it, right? So that's my number one stress. I don't have to worry about Bitcoin tax by holding it. I don't have these shadow costs. I don't have to worry about insurance on my Bitcoin. I don't have to worry about renters with my Bitcoin. I love that. I do believe that we had a bit of a taste of what it's like to have renters. When you go ahead and estate your tokens, you find out you've been rug pulled, or like you informed me last week, you get need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kneecap.
I don't want that. Kneecap. I don't want that. And that kind of reminds me of what just happened to me. I was kneecapped by the insurer. Now I have to, this is high priority. I got to take care of it. Holy Toledo. I'd much rather just hold digital assets. And I think that too is going to be super important when we think about what's going to come with commercial real estate and all the banks. We're going to have so many epic failure points in banks. It's kind of surreal. Like, it almost seems like it's not going to happen, which makes me believe it's actually going to happen more so and more impactful than people think. Banks are going to end up, regional banks, small banks are all going to end up having major issues with commercial real estate. This is going to impact liquidity markets, and this is going to cause a domino effect. I'm not sure we're all super prepared for it. I do know that in the end, I believe what people are going to say is, screw real estate. It is too much stress, too hard to manage, too much risk. I'd rather hold digital property like Bitcoin.
It's very possible that public sentiment will swing that way. Public sentiment has been strong on real estate. You can see with a large drop in real estate value, houses that have been overly priced begin to correct. There will be fear. People will begin to look for a new asset to put in, and they may start to consider crypto assets in new ways that they wouldn't have considered 10 years ago. You can definitely see that happening. I think it's going to take longer than what people may be expecting. There's definitely problems with the banking system. They're over leveraged. Most of the banks are currently insolvent. It's just being hidden under the rug, just like 2007, 2008. That crash took longer to take place than people in the know were expecting. We'll see a similar situation, but it's almost inevitable.
It sure almost seems inevitable. I think it's a great way to segue to what's happening with Blackrock, because it too seems inevitable. The whole idea of ETFs, market participation, fair access to all, meaning corporations, institutions, so forth, they finally see light at the end of the tunnel. We all believe it's all going to get approved just because BlackRock is such a heavy hitter going in the boxing ring. But we were chatting quickly earlier about the CEO, some of his comments from BlackRock. Maybe do a quick share on that. Let's talk about BlackRock, because it directly affects the future.
Yeah, so I don't have a pretty quote blob ready to go, so I'll read it. Larry Fink, he said, he was on TV yesterday, I believe. He says that the role of Bitcoin is to digitize gold. He's half correct. In my opinion, you want to share it or debate it, let's do it. That Bitcoin is equity ownership in the internet. Right? So that it's not just about replacing gold, but we are sharing the internet, sharing in the wealth of the internet. Fink also said that we're trying to make crypto more democratized and make it much cheaper for investors. I don't know how much I trust Fink when he says we're trying to democratize something. I don't know who. Is it for everyone or for his investors? Okay, I don't know. And when he says to make it cheaper for investors, I don't know what he means by that, because as you get more investors, number go up. Maybe he means cheaper for his investors so that they can feel safer to get into it. It's probably what he's talking about. He's probably not thinking about mom and pop when he's talking about making it cheaper for investors, because right now it's about the cheapest you can be.
Yeah, I mean, there's two different mindsets here. He's of an institutional mindset, and it's about institutional access. And when you think about Bitcoin, ETF, utilizing the actual asset itself, the underpinnings of the asset, the spot market, that does add a bit of democratization to the marketplace because you're adding more participants. That's contrary to the existing services that are provided. In this case, the existing services has been nothing more than paper contracts. Paper contracts dictating what a derivative market should be in regards to value. And we all know this is changing. Now, everybody focuses on what you just said too. When I talk to friends and family, they're like, hey, did you hear what's going on? Blackrock, he was saying that Bitcoin, digital gold. But really what he's saying right here is crypto is digitizing gold. Bitcoin is digitizing gold. That's really what he's meaning. And that's the tokenization of financial markets, the next generation of fintech. I watched his interview. One thing that was even more impressive was his confirmation of how archaic traditional finance is and how much of a need there is to innovate in the sector still with all this technology, what we've already proven in spaces like Web3 that provide such amazing services. We've seen it. I know NFTs gets a bad name now. Like, who in the world wants to invest in NFT project now? That's a bad rap. But what's to come is this: digitizing gold, digitizing value, digitizing traditional assets. That's where NFT value comes in from a utility perspective. When we finally switch the mindset that this is utility power, this is the future of the internet, this is the future of value, market value of all things. Well, that just opens up so much. It's exciting and it's scary because we're talking about legacy players here that have not exactly done fair, good next steps for the everyday person globally, in small communities, in large communities. When you really think about it, and I look back like the things like the last financial crisis in the United States, like the 2008 time period, the one percenters, like the chances of being able to not only build wealth, but to secure it, where the everyday person is getting more risky. The risk is increasing. And I want to say that it's being saturated still by traditional players. Larry Fink, he's one of them. I love that he switched his mindset. He sees dollar signs. Let's just be real. He sees that if he doesn't adapt and adopt to the future of technologies, that his company is going to be left behind. He was asked on CNN, hey, who is going to replace you? Are you retiring anytime soon? He's like, no, I'm not retiring, but I'm preparing the best number one, the number two in the organization. And they're going to have everybody that works for them love working for them, just like they love working for me. So if I exit, the next leader is going to have a fantastic team. I did love the fact that he focused so much on his team and the value of his team. Anytime that he got like credit for doing such a good job for historical trends of BlackRock, he championed the team that actually kept the company building year over year, month over month during adversities, and still delivering today fantastic services in a world that's very much challenging. So I have respect for him, but at the same time, I don't want to ignore the fact that this is greed driven. This is a marketplace opportunity. They're one of these leaders, everybody that's filing for an ETF in Bitcoin, they want to be first to market. And this is a bit of a race. And BlackRock is leading the race. They only had one out of all their filings for ETF be denied. And Coinbase is part of this. Like, this is pretty freaking huge. Right in the bottom before I have a PayPal.
International asset, right. And so this begins to erode the centralized power of the nation state and give autonomy back to the individual, create self-sovereignty. This is important. When you have a globalized society, we're all connected to one another. We are far less likely to want to go to war with one another. We don't want to. It's not so easy to hate, right? It's not so easy to have fear when you have friends from all around the world. Oh, they're cool. They're a little different. They have their own culture. They eat different food, whatever. It tastes better than mine. But yeah, they're just people. They just want to have a good life for their family and their children and take care of their mothers. You don't want to go to war against people like that. And you have Bitcoin as an international asset. This is a global good for the people. I
like the idea of war. I'm like, it's been so much manipulation. They're utilizing war as a tool to control a body of global citizens, all of the countries coming together. In today's modern world, I just don't see why war is beneficial. I think there's other means to have resolution. But life is precious. I have a hard time with that. I don't like the way that war is, in a sense, monetized. When we look at like the ebbs and flows of market conditions and the correlation with war, it's sad. It's sad. All the riches that come through war, all the economic wealth generation, the power, the manufacturing, they use it as a means for utility to propel the future of market conditions for the governing citizens. And I'm not sure that these decisions are done in the best light of the people sometimes. I don't know. I just don't like it when people are losing lives for something that they have no real control over. But this whole thing here about Bitcoin as an international asset, this excites me because you got Larry Fink on there, you got Blackrock talking about this, saying that digitizing gold is basically what's happening. He should have just said tokenizing everything is happening, because that's what it is. That's the
probably
real
a bit too much for the average person to comprehend. Just,
but with
start somewhere.
Yeah, start somewhere. But I want to hit home on this one point, is that this is so powerful because how many international assets right now are available for people freely to invest in? Like real international assets, something that institutional players agree on, something that everyday citizen agrees on. How many assets are like that? You know, when I think of international asset, Wall Street doesn't, I mean, Wall Street's a play. It's not really an asset I want to hold and go, my gosh, this is going to help with generational wealth, or this is going to help basically my family and myself sustain as we go through market conditions. Like, I don't know any other international asset other than gold and Bitcoin. And gold just, I mean, it's clear as day. It's right here. Larry Fink. I mean, crypto is digitizing gold. It's the old way of managing asset management is not there. It's just like when you look at like hoarders. I was watching a hoarder show and I thought about crypto. I know it's odd, but check this out. Follow with me now. Okay. I'm going to actually stop sharing this, but follow with me. Okay. So you're a hoarder. Let's just imagine you're a hoarder, right? The profile of hoarders is to hoard things that they find of value. All the hoarders, if you were imagining yourself a hoarder, what would that look like? What would the space look like? I mean, I don't know if you ever tried hoarding. I mean, I don't know. I'm like,
I have been in one hoarder house in my life.
Okay, you can imagine it. So if you were a hoarder, JP, what would be in your house riddled everywhere?
Bitcoins. What else?
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably technology, old technology, new technology, just computers everywhere.
Yeah, right? I'm a technologist too. I believe in the same thing. I have to like on purpose filter out. I have so many projects that have no value, but I love them. But I thought about this. I'm like, holy crap, Brandy, you're a freaking hoarder right now. I'm like, what? I'm like going through my head. I'm like, holy crap, I'm realizing that I'm really a hoarder. And I look at it like this: when you have the physical world of hoarding in this new digital age, you have digital representation of the physical world. My files galore. I have so many backups. I have hard drives that are 20 years old hard drives. I have stuff, maybe they died. I'm like, oh, I'm going to replace the logic board and, reclear the data. There might be value here. I'm like, so I hoard digital technology.
Cut them, right?
Yeah. Like if you looked at if I organize in an Excel spreadsheet or a Google spreadsheet, all my digital tokens, and you've seen the length of time on some of these tokens that have no value whatsoever, I'm still hoarding them. Mm-hmm. So I'm a digital hoarder. I don't know what to do here.
At least that doesn't take up as much space in the living room, in the basement, in the garage.
That's the social benefit of it. That's my point. So there's always a good thing. That's what I love about also this show is like, let's empower each other. Let's empower the world to think a little bit more different. That even when we're faced with adversity, let's empower each other to remain strong, because the new world in front of us is so opportunistic. I love the opportunities. Like right now, market conditions, like they're talking about the jobs report in the United States. It's mind-blowing when we have so many risks in front of us. It's certainly, to me, adding to instability, though. I'm like, is it sustainable? Is that going to be even more of a dramatic when things take a turn? I know it's going to take a turn. It's a matter of when it's going to take a turn. I don't know. It's all speculation. But
I didn't see the most recent jobs report, but my opinion is in this market, if one is entrepreneurial, they should start their own thing if they have the resources.
Well, it's freedom. When we think about, let me just share this other slide. It's concluding on your slide deck here. Centralization or surveillance seems to corrupt capitalism. And that to me is really crazy to think about where we're at, where the future is going. And this is the thing that I love about entrepreneurship and the new world of global opportunity, is that it's really to combat this. Because if we don't control the way that our data is being managed, because when you think of the centralization and surveillance, I don't know about you, but I'm thinking about all our data. I'm thinking about what we're doing, pushing innovation to the next level, trying to widen the spectrum of not only access, but opportunity to the access. This here is what I feel like that we're trying to shield from. And entrepreneurship is one method to shield yourself from that, because we're losing more and more rights. People, layoffs happen. How do you know they're making the right decision? It's like survival of the fittest in that sense. And sometimes it's kind of unjust. So nonetheless, going that debate on that one.
Well, before we go to this fun story with Elon, the story about corrupting capitalism was through centralization and surveillance. If we take that a step further to data, if you want to jump this story for a minute and talk about Google and what they've recently said, they basically said all your data belong to us. And they have said that any data we find, we're scraping it and we're using it for our AI systems. Right? This is a centralized entity that is beginning to show its age and bureaucracy. And they are saying that we have the power to take your data and use it. And they stop short of saying steal it, but this is what's happening. And we're going to use this to maintain our institutional power and our control. Maybe it's time to, like, Google's is going to start waning. Just as Microsoft did, just as IBM did. We can use blockchain and Web3 as a way to combat AI large companies scraping your data, stealing it. Elon Musk has recently got a lot of flack about rate limiting the Twitter API. But when you think of it in the context of companies like Google and Alphabet saying, we're going to steal your data, they don't say steal, but this is what's happening. One almost must rate limit to protect their users, to protect their own business models. And in Web 2, you're going to begin to see more rate limiting. The internet's almost closing in a way. And the way out, but we have an escape path. We have a hatch. We can go through, and that's Web 3. That's the decentralized internet through consensus networks.
I don't know who this company is. I don't know. I just searched a single topic point. I just want to hit home on one thing. The dangers of mixing business and personal funds for corporations. When it comes down to corporations, you have to have a complete separate bank account to avoid commingling of funds. The moment that a corporation commingles fund from personal and the corporation, all protection for the corporation cease to exist. They no longer exist. The reason why that's important, because when you think about who owns your data, Google Analytics owns your data right now. Google Analytics is digging everywhere, capturing all the data from things that we visit, which then goes into more layers of additional data points that they're linking to. I think that one thing that corporations aren't understanding that's right in front of us is commingling is more than just bank accounts. Commingling is going to be with data. And that's going to be one of the biggest loopholes that I think is going to drive the way that we look at blockchain technologies with artificial intelligence, because these corporations are in need to protect themselves. And the way to do that is with a transparent ledger of sorts, not just Bitcoin, but that's Web3 utility technologies already proven, readily and advancing right now to solve this problem that's up in front of us. And it's hard. Like if we were educating folks, or if the news outlet, mainstream media was talking about that, the everyday person's like, what does that mean? Why do I care about? What the heck is tokenization? Why would private data need to be on chain? Like, why would that need to be in Web3? What is Web3? They're having a hard time right now understanding all the innovations and its path. So I just wanted to mention that, because this alludes to the whole openAI, them getting sued. They're getting sued right now, right? And there's more lawsuits to come, and it's going to be everybody with artificial intelligence. And if they cannot prove with confidence, without reasonable doubt, that that data was obtained in an ethical manner, they're screwed.
Right. So we'll see what comes of these lawsuits. There was 2 authors that the summaries of ChatGPT were so on spot that it's almost that they had to have trained GPT using their materials. And of course, the authors received no credit for their work and their labor and their creative energy. And this is a problem. So how much do we value human labor, creative efforts?
It is. It's the same problem we had back in the day with books. They were once illegal as a way to oppress the people and keep control. But obviously that didn't win. So governments learned that didn't work out so well for them. So they need to open up. Now they're facing this problem with AI, but it's so much more complex than just providing people education. We're talking about utility power here that gives people leverage in regards to productivity. And this productivity means capitalism, which means greed. And that's the root of the thing here that we need to control. It needs to be more, at least my opinion is, it needs to be looked at like a public library. So if you're going to use AI in a public domain and train it from the public domain, then it is a free public service that nobody is allowed to monetize for, and it needs to have fair access for everybody. Everybody. It needs to be fully democratized and available and opened up. I think that's where it's going to get to. And now I think one area is of strong investment. Like if I was an investor with a ton of money right now wanting to invest in AI at this moment, I'm going to be looking for companies that have a proven private data set with innovation attached to it that can be commercialized. So that way I can fuel greed with confidence.
Right. We're not going to change human behavior. So identify business models that are going to work with human behavior and also be legal, right? Avoid the legal troubles. It's not a good look, and it costs money. It detracts from the mission.
So I work with Google. You know, if you look at my history, I work with Google, and I worked on several machine learning and AI projects. So I definitely have domain knowledge, some gritty domain knowledge, working in the trenches, right, of classification. And I do know with confidence that Google has obtained private data sets by paying folks to classify a learning database, basically it's classification for machine learning, right? And the machine learning is at the root of knowledge for artificial intelligence. So I do know Google has a bit of arm there. And when we talked about Google potentially being a dinosaur, if we look at Google and where they're at today, and when you look against openAI and look at the competition, you think about what does search mean for me in the future of something like Web3 technologies, I don't want to bet against Google. I think that they're falling behind, but maybe they're doing the Apple playbook of falling behind. Maybe they're taking a step back to watch, to learn, and then hit it hard. They do, I know for a fact, because I personally worked on things, they have a private database. How vast is it commingled, right? Another thing I don't think anybody's ever talked about is the power of what commingling means from a law definition and used for things like Supreme Court. Commingling is super powerful. If Google say improve without a reasonable doubt that their training for their AI is fully private, then that definitely affects valuation for the future of innovative services in the AI sector. But I can't tell you with confidence that it's not commingled. See, I actually believe the opposite. I think that this data set has been commingled, and that's the problem. Complete problem. So blockchain will definitely,
interesting.
You know, if you're a new startup in this space, you're looking, you got a team, you're a developer, you're a product leader. This is one area that will give you leverage in hackathons, is to build on real utility use cases to solve problems that affect the way we look at private data. It's not just about, oh, you're logged in a web portal and you have a user profile and that and user profile is encrypted. It's far more advanced than that when it comes down to data layers. We're talking about data layers that go from user habits to backend processes, then to cross-functional backend processes between cross-functional organizations. As the data transmit down, packets are being added of additional data points in the sense of what I showed earlier about Google and Google Analytics. Google Analytics is watching the way that you're browsing. It understands, and its promotion is like, hey, we're helping small businesses get the information they can target market. I get that. But underneath, the additional layers of information that's being attached is directly to your user ID within their system. Knowing all sorts of things, they're able to predict anything about you in a more accurate way as they iterate on that data set. So It's really interesting. And this to me is a huge opportunity for folks in Web3. Is like there's, when you think of those several layers, where can you position your project? How can you make sure that that project has some type of utility power that you can emphasize on, modularize this stuff so that way it can come and plug in together like it's an ecosystem. I think that's a super huge opportunity.
It is big. That's big. We'll have to explore it in the future. Well, we have to talk about threads, right?
Oh yeah, talk about thread. Yeah, we did. Like, yeah, did you sign up for a thread through Instagram or something?
I haven't signed up for threads through Instagram. Have you?
No, no, but you know, I'm looking into it.
30 million people have though, which is 12% of Twitter's 250 million. So not a bad sign up day for day one.
Now, is this automatic signups though? Is everybody with the account automatically get signed up, or is this from users' free will joining on the system?
I'm not sure. My impression is that it's from users' free will.
Oh, if it is, that's huge.
If it is, that's huge. Now, I will assume that there are more than 30 million Instagram users out there. And if it was just a, hey, if you got an Instagram account, you now have a Threads account, that would, I don't know, like a graveyard. So we'll see. That's a great launch. It's trending right now. It's #1 in the news and tech news. Will it hold? Will it create engagement? You know, that's to be determined, and I'll withhold my judgment on that.
Yeah, I'm not going to withhold my judgment. To me, it's very simple. You got Meta, who's driving and thriving for change because they know they need a pivot with services that's been so emotional recently. A lot of commotion going on with the whole idea about what the metaverse is, you know, them dropping focus and all of a sudden Apple jumping on board. Like a super interesting time period. But when I think about Meta's focus, Facebook, here we look at Instagram. I think about the culture of Instagram. And when I go on Instagram or I talk to my friends and family about Instagram, it's about showing like that lavish, best filtered life. It's super filtered, right? You have Facebook, a little bit more organic, a little bit more family oriented, but then you got Instagram. And it's like, put the best out there, show the best of everything. It's so filtered. It's not a representation of real life. That's my problem about this is like, if Instagram is going over to Threads, how is that a competitor against Twitter? Twitter is a more professional domain of an opinionated town hall use case. I don't see that. Am I wrong with this? Is something here changed in regards to fundamentals of Instagram? Maybe I'm missing something.
My understanding is that, maybe I'm completely wrong, but my understanding is that Instagram is still Instagram, and now there's this new Threads, which is like a Twitter clone. You access Threads through your Instagram account. So this is a caveat, is that Threads will feel a lot like Twitter. It's just different, it's new, but it's still much more the same. It's all centralized. But to exit Threads, you'll have to delete your Instagram account. So like saying there is a way out, but you have to destroy everything, which is, as we talked about with data hoarding, is usually undesirable.
All the hoarders out there.
Right. Gotta hoard all my fake Instagram.
Such a hoarder. I need help. Okay, so pretty soon, you know, the future is like 20 years, we're gonna have that, you know, digital detox, stop being a hoarder.
There will be digital detox services. Maybe we should get ahead of the curve and start one now.
Oh yeah, I have friends that focus on that. Super. I want it. I want to digitally detox. It's so hard because stress comes with it too. Sometimes I'm like, is it worth it? And I think that's probably part of the big problem is that there's this strong addiction with information and the way that we absorb it. Yeah, some really strong controversy here. We got YouTube Shorts. We have this competition going on in social. We have Web3. All the builders in space focusing on utility, building the next generation utility service. During the last round, we had NFTs, DeFi's, DAOs. What do you think is going to happen in this next round? It's going to be utility power, the next generation of NFTs, DeFi, and DAOs, and then something else, something more. We can expect the unexpected in regards to innovation in Web3. So yeah, more definitely to come. Let me go ahead and go back on this. A fruit fly brain has been mapped out and they booted up as a computer to make it eat and groom. It basically, they were able to take organic matter and then turn that into a computer. And it's this super crazy to me. Elon Musk says things are getting weird fast. I agree with him. Like, holy Toledo, things are getting weird fast. Just imagine a world where we have all these hard drives and stuff. Like, I got a bunch of these little disks, SSDs I like to store information on. Imagine if this was organic chip inside, how much storage it could have. And then imagine a world where we're using organic material for computational power, computational needs. What would that look like? And I think the fear for me, honestly, with that new world that's in front of us with this, where's the regulators? Where are they at making sure they safeguard this technology? Because we have things like with radio frequencies. My fear is at a cellular level. If I was to scratch myself right now, I love microbiology. I took microbiology as an optional class. I love computer science. Obviously, that's my focus. But in microbiology, I learned about cells communicating, cellular communication. And if you scratch yourself, your skin cells are affected. Your body goes alert to go through mitosis. And that's the point where cells go ahead and duplicate themselves, right? They clone themselves, build new cells to repair. And your skin knows just to repair, and the cells communicate, stop, we're done, we did a good job, no need to go to split yourself and go through mitosis anymore. We did a good job, we're done. So they are already communicating. And when I study microbiology, there's no way that humans can control cellular communications. And then when I see this post here, I'm like, now maybe they have.
The fruit fly has been programmed, and they can control the fruit fly to eat and groom, or it's a digital representation of a fruit fly on a monitor.
So they a representation, and I believe what they did is they dissected the whole brain, and then simulated it, is what I believe. So I believe it's the option. I don't see a video here or anything representing, and it is about neurons feeding the region of the brain. It sounds like I don't know, Neuralink connecting into it. You got Elon Musk with Neuralink responding to this, saying things are getting weird fast. I mean, I just know I got to dig in deeper here, but the fact is that they are playing with organic computational power, data storage, and to me, this is a new brave world. We only can go so many nanometers. Like when you look at Apple Silicon and the advancements of chips, Moore's law is breaking down because from an atomic level, we only can go so thin. So we're going 5 nanometers to 3 nanometers in regards to chip fabrication process. And when you see things like Apple M1 versus Apple M2, a large part of all these improvements is simply from the refinement of going from 5 nanometers down to 3 nanometers, because that requires less electricity, that has shorter connection distances, that allows electricity to travel faster, giving greater performance. So it's not like super innovating when you go from first gen to second gen through chip making, when you're literally changing the connections and the size of them. But there's a point where it's no longer stable, that atoms no longer could behave because it's too thin. And that's the problem with Moore's law. And I know there's reference for it. Maybe another time we'll talk about it. But this is the next evolutionary process of computational power and data services through organic matter. And we're doing a lot of things with genomics. We're able to take cells, turn them into other cells. It's interesting time period. It's scary to me because, well, how do we regulate and how do we have confidence that we're doing the right things in this type of industry? It's not just AI. AI is going to advance all these things. We get to test so much faster now. It's no longer limited to humans testing, right? And that's the scary thing about AI. And so I agree here. Things are getting weird fast. It's not just blockchain, AI, it's genomics. And this is another PowerPoint for startups out there. When you think about utility power, before we talked about how you can leverage ways to protect against data, think also about this. How do you protect data and genomics? How do you make sure that corporations are being ethical, and that the governments and regulators that are running with inside the governments, that they too are being ethical? It's going to require some type of trustless environment everybody can agree on, that comes to consistency, that says we are doing the right things. So we need solutions to protect about this new world, so that way we know what the heck's going on when we're communicating with our actual cells in our body when that time comes. So heads up, tons of opportunity. That's why I love blockchain, because it's literally at the convergence of all the innovation that we see, from AI to genomics. When we think of space, interstellar, SpaceX, satellites, other planets, I mean, what other technology is going to impact support for any future innovation. Blockchain is posed to do that. AI is as well, but I think the record of truth is going to matter. So
the record of truth is going to be very important, because with
yeah.
AI, without a decentralized ledger, one can change the record of truth for very little cost and very little energy.
Yep. Oh yeah, we have new 6G. Don't worry, we tested it. It doesn't communicate with your cells.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Know what we're here.
Right. That's why we need to share perspectives on these things. That's why we have value, JP. We have unique perspectives. We need to share them with the community. The community, you should be vocalizing these things too. It's when we talk about them is how we go ahead and build a better future. So another thing that's super interesting here is Elon Musk never stops. He's over there impacting so many things in cryptoverse. One of them's in Dogecoin. This wasn't straight from Elon Musk, but Elon Musk did say this. He did say he would eat a Happy Meal on TV if McDonald's was to accept Dogecoin. And I find this interesting because he's so adamant. And then when I think about SpaceX and I think about interstellar travel, like Mars and stuff, like we do need a form of value that's going to be transferred somehow, some way, robots and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Elon Musk seems to be embracing a lot of Dogecoin. And then when you think of Twitter and how he renamed the company X at the intersect of all, it's like, I don't know. It seems like, maybe one day we might see him eat a McDonald's Happy Meal on TV. And I would have to say, let that sink in. In.
People go crazy over the silliest stuff, but I think the bigger piece of that would be the most iconic American franchise, maybe competing with Walmart in that kind of mind space, accepting a cryptocurrency would be enormous. That would be huge. So bring it. Let's do it.
Let's do it. We talked about last time. I think it's clear. The signal's clear. Apple's holding back crypto. Samsung's holding back crypto. Mobile is how you give access to information to people globally now.
Crypto through McDonald's. Let's make it happen.
Let's make it happen.
Imagine there would be a national crypto Happy Meal day.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Imagine that. And imagine if PlanB is right. I mean, you got to give respect to this guy. Nonstop going at it, talking about ways to stay optimistic about Bitcoin. I love this guy. He's been around supporting the stock to flow. And when you zoom in here, it's like, maybe he is onto something. I've always had respect for him. I was like, okay, past performance is indicative for future performance. There's trends. I get it. I get it. PlanB. But now we're seeing it develop right in front of us. And when you look at the chart, it's pretty interesting where we're at. And it's like, okay, when you look at the last period on the stock to flow chart here from PlanB, and we look at where we're at now, what it says here is prepare for volatility, because we are near the next start of the next cycle. That's going to be some time. So this next year is going to be joy and sorrow. That's what I'm saying. So volatile. So be prepared. Yeah, be prepared. Stick with this. Stick with us on the show. We're going to go through these pain periods that we're going to feel. We're going to share with you how we're going to remain optimistic. After all, it is good crypto morning. We're going to advocate for all the finer things and what's to come in regards to the world. And I'm going to keep on following PlanB. This guy's great. It makes me wonder, where are we going to do with baby boomers and all the McMansions and McMillions that they've stored up? They can't take it with them to the grave. They're going to hand that down. When I think about this and I dig in deeper, they're going to first hand it down to Gen X, and Gen X is going to get 47, at least this is what is anticipated, 47.8 trillion of worth. I wonder, what is Gen X going to do with it? I'm on the very end of Gen X. And so it's kind of like I'm a hybrid between millennials and Generation X. So I value this, and I look at all my peers, and like yourself, I'm like, well, if I know you're not getting a bunch of money, but let's say that somehow you got inherited $1 trillion. What would you do with it? What would you do if you had $1 trillion?
Yeah. I'm sure I could find a way to spend it.
You would.
And if I can't, my wife can figure out a way.
Oh God.
Full faith.
Oh God. It will be some fun time, but there's going to be a point where you're like, how do I protect the value? Because you got everything that you want. It's only so much, and then spinning becomes boring. I mean, that's why we've seen things like the oceanic sub. I mean, people are spending $250,000 to go in an experimental craft to go view the Titanic. That's a lot of money. I would never mortgage my house to get a ticket to go check out the Titanic. Only the super wealthiest people are doing that because they have liquid ability to do so. And that
just
liquid
say something about the boredom that extreme wealth brings.
Yes. And so and that's what I mean. If you had $1 trillion, think about how bored you'll end up being, and you need to do something with it. Otherwise, you're going to just remain bored, and you're going to go along with the baby boomers, holding it, trying to go to the grave. It's just not going to work. It needs to be transferred some way or another. A simple question, would you go and diversify in hard precious metals? Would you diversify that in it? And if you were, what percentage would you do?
No, I would only do gold. I wouldn't do any other metals and Bitcoin. So I would just do gold, and I would forget about silver and bronze and all the other stuff. How about you?
Yeah, I like diversification, real estate, private business, I think for me, if I was to have $1 trillion, I'd be in here in startup world. I'd be doing fostering business growth. To me, I love the idea of being a contributor to innovation. It would be super addicting. I would use $1 trillion to be frivolous, starting as many business to test and check. My favorite part about mathematics was test and check. I found it memorizing. I don't have a confirmed way to provide a solution, but let me test and check all these. I'm gonna come up with it. It gives me the confidence that during times where you don't know what the solution is, you'll still be able to come up with one. And so I'm definitely would be more in businesses than I would be real estate. Gold, I only would invest in it if it was fully tokenized on the blockchain. Only way. And I would diversify. Everything would be diversified through blockchain.
Well, at that point, it might as well be Bitcoin.
Yeah, and Bitcoin would definitely be there. Right. That's the thing, is like I would be focusing on those things. I think a lot of us that are connected would end up doing so. And the reason why I say that, you could just look at the major league players in sports like NFL. These folks that make a ton of money, they know it's going to be short-lived in the grand scheme of things of life. What are they going to do afterwards? Typically, right afterwards, they're all about starting business, trying to maintain wealth generational power. And it takes money to make money in this world. I'm hoping that people do the right thing and actually create business and do stuff that's going to be fruitful for everybody. But none of it, unless it's happening. Like there's nothing we can do in regards to argument saying that nothing is going to be shared from baby boomers in regards to their $78.3 trillion in assets. That's kind of crazy to me. That's going to go 47.8 trillion is right now the value of Gen X, right? And then 78.3 trillion is the value of assets right now for baby boomers. And the millennials is only 14.2 trillion. And this to me is really the biggest one. The millennials were born in this digital age, and their real estate portfolio, their diversification and other assets, it's small. It's small. And when you think about the money coming from baby boomers to Gen X to millennials, I'm going to say millennials are going to be driving the next trends. That should moon a lot of stuff in the blockchain innovation space. What's your thoughts?
Well, I hope the generation builds. As you said, I hope they build, start businesses, start throwing stuff to the wall. Let's see what sticks. Let's experiment. Let's iterate. Let's build and have a good crypto morning.
Oh man, I'm having a great crypto morning, especially when I connect up with you, JP. Thank you so much. And connecting with you in the community. Thank you for joining. We're going to get better and better with the show. If you have any comments or feedback, we're open ears. In the meantime, have a fantastic crypto morning. And you can enjoy crypto morning any time of the day or night.
Absolutely. So is GM. Where do we find you?
Yeah, you can find me Twitter, Brandy Lee 79. That's my handle on Twitter. More to come. Really, if you want to learn more about me, I have a site called meetbrandy.com. Feel free. You can learn a little bit about my past, some of the projects I worked on. And also on there at meetbrandy.com, you'll find my other social handles like LinkedIn and so forth. Do dig in and ask questions. And we would love to hear what you would like for us to focus on next, especially when we get into breaking down reports. I know that's going to come and it will be super fun, JP, super fun. How about you?
I am JTZ XYZ on all the places. So come find me. Say hello.
Say hello. Say hello. Yes, please do. And we're going to end up building more content, more focus and attention on community growth. That means tools and empowerment for you, all for us to reduce latency so we can communicate and foster growth with each other. Thank you so much for spending time with us this fantastic crypto morning. Wishing you a great day and evening ahead.